Karl Woodcraft. In today's video I'm going to be making a simple bed box. I got the plans from the RSPB, and because it's spring and we're doing a bit of work in the garden, we thought it'd be nice to make a suitable bed box for the garden. And I've made my little plans here in my Getting Stuff Done book, which is made by Shaun In the Shed. I'll leave a link to these if you want to purchase one. Super handy. You get to sketch out your picture of what you want to make. You've got parts, lists, projects, details, all sorts. Really good little book. I'll also leave a link in the description to the plans for this as well, which you can get off the RSPB website. So I made this with my woodworking students who are age 8 to 13, and we just use hand tools. So it's really simple. You can use a handsaw and a hammer and nails to make it. But we're going to be using a brad gun today just to speed things up a little bit. And we're going to be using some PVA glue. We've got a 32mm Forstner bit, a tape measure, a ruler, a pencil, and to make the cuts, I'm going to be using the miter saw. All you need is one board to make this, and the measurements are 1530 by 140 by 15mm thick. So as you can see, you can get all your cuts out of this one board, and this is the simple bed box here that we're going to be making. First thing we're going to do is go over to the miter saw and make the square cuts. So we're just going to square up the top and bottom of this board. Here, defenders. Now we're going to make our first two cuts, and as the diagram shows, we need 200mm on one side, so I'll just mark with a tape measure 200mm from the back of the board, and we're going to mark 250mm at this side of the board. Then all we need to do is join them two lines together and make that cut. I can use the laser on my saw to trace that line what I've just drawn on with a pencil. Now all I need to do is flip that board around, pop it on top of there, and trace around that, making the exact same size piece for the opposite side. So these are going to be the sides. Next we're going to do the front, that's 200mm, so let's mark 200mm. This is going to be the front. Next on the list is the roof, and then we've got the floor. So 210 for the roof. Two more pieces to cut, the floor and the back. So the floor is 120. Last piece, 350mm, and that's for the back. I'm just going to interrupt the video, just tell you about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Karl Woodcraft himself. So we don't get any, me and Jacob don't get any funding whatsoever for our videos. We do probably 1, 2 or 3 videos per week, varies from week to week, and we fund all this ourselves. We hope you appreciate the videos and we hope you enjoy them. If you'd like to support us and help us out financially, you can do that through PayPal, Patreon and channel membership. And if you do that, we really appreciate it. And even if you're just watching the videos, we also appreciate that as well. So thanks to everyone who supports us, and if you can, that's great, and if you can't, don't worry about it. Everybody has different circumstances. Right then, straight back into video then. Let's start assembling this bed box. All the components are cut now, but before I start nailing things together, I'm just going to check where everything fits together. I'm not sure whether these go on the inside or the outside yet, the side pieces. So I'll just pop them on the outside first and have a little play with it. There's the floor, so I'm Right, so before I start to glue everything together, I'm just going to cut a hole in this for the birds to get in and out, and that's with a 32mm Forstner bit, and that's aimed at small birds like sparrows and blue tits. We're using a 32mm Forstner bit to cut a hole. We're going to go 3/4 of the way through. When the brad point bit at the end there just starts to poke out on the other side, we'll turn it over and finish the drilling from the other side so we don't get lots of tear out. Nice clean hole, so the birds don't get any splinters. Right, we're just going to assemble now. We're going to start off with one of the side pieces onto the front. So I'm just going to take a bit of glue, run that down the front edge. A little bit on the fiddly side, that first one. Just check there's no nails come through on the inside. Then we're going to pop the back piece on. Should get a little bit easier now. Going to sit this on the edge of the bench like that, makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to put the roof on.
Some glue on.
I'm going to use a combination square to measure in how far this little overlap hangs over the edge. If you haven't got a combination square, you could just use a ruler, but it's just a little bit easier with these. Just so I know where I'm putting my nails, so I'm getting my nails in the right place. And then just a mark, and then that's the edge, and then I know I need to put my brads down here. If you wanted, you could screw this in with no glue, and then that way you could empty the bird box out after the season. I'm not worried about that. I'll probably just make another one next year. This is exactly why you don't put your fingers anywhere near where you're shooting a brad in. Brad's a good centimetre in there, and twing, look at that. Don't put your fingers anywhere near where you're putting a brad in. Just cleaning any excess glue off now, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinforce the joints with a few screws here and there. I mean, it'll probably be fine just as it is, but I might as well stick a few screws in it as well. And then I'm going to give it a light sand. And if you wanted, you could put a finish on this, but make sure you add a water-based finish if you do. Nothing with any chemicals or in it like that. Right, I think I'll use some, they're probably about 40mm, aren't they? Maybe they're a bit overkill. About 30mm screws. I'm going to countersink a few screws in, just to reinforce everything.
I don't want the bottom falling out on this with the birds in it.
All I'm going to do now is give it a nice little sand with this hand sanding pad. Like I say, you could add some water-based stain if you want, and then we'll head out into the garden. We'll find a good location to put it up, and we'll watch and wait, see if we're getting a nice little bed. Ah, I know what else I'm going to do as well. I'll show you in a minute. Couple of things I forgot to do. I've got to drill some holes in the bottom for drainage because we don't want the bedding to go rotten in the nest. And I'm going to put some wood shavings in there. So I'm just taking some nice shavings off and popping them in there to give them a head start with their nest. And pop all these little sparrows in there. That'll be lovely. So they do advise that you don't put a dowel in here because squirrels and things like that can climb onto it and hang on it and get inside and kill the chicks or get the eggs. So don't put anything that's going to aid them getting in it. Right, so some holes in the bottom.
Actually, I'm going to do 5, one in there as well.
Right, let's get in the garden. We often get birds nesting in these bushes here and they do get quite overgrown. So I'm going to put this in here. Just on this piece of wood that I've screwed onto this branch and that branch there. And then hopefully we'll get a bed in the box. Like I said, it's a pretty good place because we already get beds in these bushes all the time, so should be all right. Lovely. Yeah. We'll finish the video then. Hope you enjoyed that video then, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. If you've got any questions, just ask away in the comments and I'll see you on the next one.